And so, yeah, I remember being, I worked at San Francisco Golf Club for a bit. I worked at Meadow Club for a bit. I've been to Pasatiempo's cart barn. I mean, the like maintenance shed. And I'm like, everywhere I'd go, these flags would have some bird poop on them. They'd be sun faded, but they're still cool logoed flags that would be in a box somewhere. And if you're that type of person, you'd say, chuck them. We're not going to ever use these again. Get rid of them. And I could never throw them away. I'd always have a box of them. And that's, as 7.5 years as an assistant at Cal Club and all the other places I got to work for 6 to 3 months to 8 months, I knew there was like a glut of old flags that like people were gonna throw away. And I got here, and probably 1 year into being here, I was like, okay, now it's my problem. Now I get to decide what happens with these flags.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Whole Story Podcast. Robbie and Jonathan here. We got a great episode for you today. We're talking to Josh Smith, the founder of a really cool company called Flag Bag Golf Company. Jonathan, what did you think about our chat with Josh?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, great golf stories, great golf story, just in terms of taking that leap, staying in the industry, and what a novel idea. If you aren't already looking this up based off of the show notes, the bags are incredible, the accessories are incredible, and Robbie and I have been spending the last 5 minutes talking about which ones we're going to get. So yeah, just cool stuff.
Yeah, which ones is
Right.
the key
No,
there.
yeah, multiple. We're trying to narrow
Yeah.
it down.
Well, I think the cool thing is they are taking a product that is a consumable, right? Flags for golf courses that
Right.
have to be replaced over time. He talked about wear and tear, sun fading, things like that. And so what do you do with them? Well, most of the time courses are thrown away. So if you are a golf course, especially if you're one of our listeners who works at a really nice golf course that people love your logo and love your stuff, send your old flags. What are you going to do with them anyway? Throw them away?
Right.
Send them out to Josh, Flag Bag Golf Company, and he will do something great to send back to you guys to turn around and sell in your pro shop. So very cool interview. You guys are going to enjoy it. Wanted to shout out our friends of the program. Jonathan, you're looking nice today. We are loving our new look here in our partnership with the Summit Golf brands. We've got Bedrati, Zero Restriction, Fairway and Green. They make us look good on the podcast, or better. They look good, better than us. So very thankful for our friends at the Summit Golf brands. But check out any of those sites, Bedrati, Zero Restriction, or Fairway and Green, and you can use the code BESTBALL20, and you can get 20% off any of your orders with those guys. So, Jonathan, another one, Western Birch. Tell us a little bit about Western Birch.
Yeah, so Western Birch, if you didn't know, they're like the indestructible tees. Still not sure how those guys are making money off of a product that never breaks. They're even made for colorblind people like me. My big fan is the short tees. Robbie was nice enough to get me the first batch, but they were brown, so I just lost them every single time. Gone back and got the colors that I can see, but they can be customizable. And somehow, I think they hire like tiny little elves, because they get the whatever logo you need on the center of the actual teacup, you can put that on there. So Western Birch, great stuff, personalized. Definitely use Best Ball. I think you get a nice little extra gift whenever you use our code on there too.
Yeah, great partner, Lewis and the team at Western Birch. One other thing we're doing this year is course corrections. Hopefully you've seen a couple episodes come out by now where Jonathan and I are actually trying to get better at golf. Our handicaps are dropping. And we are improving a little bit. Swing speeds are getting better thanks to the stack system. Jonathan, it's been fun using this thing. Check out the stacksystem.com, and you can use the link in the show notes to get a little discount with your order. But we really appreciate what it's doing, right? It's not only increasing the swing speed, but it's actually making us swing a little better and be more consistent. So check out the stacksystem.com. And another one at partnering with us on course corrections as we try to improve. We always had a boss that said you can't manage what you can't measure. Well, Arcos Golf helps us measure all the different things in our game that we need to work on. So, Jonathan, tell us a little bit about Arcos Golf.
Yeah, so probably the easiest plug and play technology thing I've ever used. Literally, you put the sensors on the club, you pair that up with your app. Whenever you go out to the course, you tell them where you're at. and the rest of the day it just tracks exactly what you're doing from swing to swing. Uh, we're going to get to go play tomorrow. I'm hoping that we can get more information, more data to sort of narrow down what it is that we're bad at when it comes to golf, besides a little bit of everything. So yeah, Arcos is out there helping you go from shot to shot and hopefully increase your fun on a golf course.
Yeah, like you said, it can help you practice the little things, right? Might be your
That's
short
right.
game, might be your putts from 10 to 15 feet, a number of things that you keep working on each of those things a little bit at a time and practice more. You can get better and the numbers will come down. So that's it. We appreciate everybody checking those out. We appreciate our friends of Best Ball. But without further ado, let's hear from Josh at Flag Bag Golf Company. Josh Smith, welcome to the Whole Story Podcast. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm excited to talk with you and share a little bit about Flag Bag and my story and whatever else comes up.
Absolutely. Got to give a shout out real quick to our buddy, a mutual friend, Jeff Marsh, who made this possible, who made the introduction. So, Jeff, thank you. You know a good golf story as well when you see it, and we're excited to hear about Josh's. So, before we get to Flag Bag, right? We did a little digging on the website, and we do see, like you mentioned as we were chatting, you're a full-time superintendent at Orinda Country Club. Am I saying that right? Is that still the case?
That's still the case. That's the country club. It's in 1924. William Watson. He grew up 8 miles from St. Andrews, so he was a Scotsman.
Very nice. And it also said you're a landscape painter, right? A golf painter, oil painter, something like that.
Yeah. Around 25 years old, I took up oil painting and it quickly gravitated to golf, and so that's a story in itself too.
Oh, very nice. Well, I guess you've got all these different things that are golf related. We might as well start with, when did you first fall in love with golf? When did you start playing? When did you start being interested in it?
So we grew up. Family grew up in Lake Oswego, Oregon, after being born in Michigan. So I was in Oregon from 3 years old on, and my dad first introduced us at the par 3 18-hole course in Lake Oswego. So they had clinics, and you didn't even have to have clubs. They would set you up with a demo club, but introduced at the par 3 course at free clinic, probably free clinics, I'm pretty sure. And then we would make a point of, during the good weather months, we'd get up and play every couple weekends. And so my dad introduced my brother and I, and that was probably 9 years old, 8, 9 years old, and then fell in love with it by 10 or 11. And, um, you know, barely made the high school team my freshman year. And then I was like second or first best player on the team by my sophomore year. Ended up playing in college.
Where'd you play college?
St. Mary's here, and St. Mary's College in Moraga.
Nice.
It's
So
D1, and of all things, Pepperdine actually won the national championship one of the years I was there. So that was when Jason Gore was on their team, I believe. So not known as a strong golf conference, but we've had our moments, I guess.
So did you run into any famous names while you were out there as a college athlete?
Yeah, honestly, more in high school. So I grew up playing alongside Ben Crane. We had the same scoring average my junior year. We both were first team all Metro. Jeff Quinney, who won the U.S. Amateur and played at Arizona State, he was in my conference. We played together a bit. Robert Garrigus was in my conference. We played together a little bit. And Jason Allred got to a pretty high level. But it's crazy the talent, Ben Crane having won like 8 times on tour, 6 times. It's crazy the talent that came out of like a really rainy region of the country with not year-round amazing golf. But who knows?
It's probably because whenever you're in sunshine, you're like, "This is like extra." I'm a scratch golfer in the rain. You should see me whenever it doesn't rain.
That's right. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And what's that old saying? The best sailors, are made in stormy seas or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, very nice. So you said you started maybe 25 years ago, or when you were 25, doing paintings of golf courses and stuff. Had you already started the career path of being a superintendent at that point?
So I studied business at St. Mary's, minored in psychology, didn't know what I wanted to do, loved golf. So my senior year, I was starting to read golf architecture books. That's what my passion was. Kind of start getting into architecture, and my dad had met someone that worked in design for John Fote's company. John Fote was like I think 1977 Rookie of the Year on the tour and U.S. Amateur winner, and ended up going into golf design. And that guy told me in an interview, if you like golf architecture, go out and help build courses for 2 years. They said,
Hmm.
and then you'd meet some people. You'd see if you liked it. You could go back to school, get your landscape architecture degree. And so I started out a week after graduation. I was in a drainage ditch, helping build a golf course here in the Bay Area from scratch. And I ended up meeting, loving meeting all the architects I got to work with. Ended up staying in that industry for 5.5 years, and didn't like I kind of had met enough good architects, became friends with different architects, and realized it was going to be a really tough road to hoe to become a golf architect. And even if you had all the skill in the world, like you might never get your shot. Your shot might be 10 years away. And I saw the writing on the wall. And on one of those courses I helped build, it was a Tom Weiskopf course in Sedona, Arizona. It's called Seven Canyons. It's right in the Red Rocks. It's like as pretty of a scenery as you could get away from the ocean. Um, there we had weekends off. And so on Saturday, I was like, what am I going to do? I'm like, I'm used to having Sundays off. I have 2 days off. I'm here by myself building a golf course. So I took up oil painting. Um, and so it's kind of a long way of getting to, um, I didn't get to greenskeeping until 7, 8 years after I graduated. So kind of like gave up on the construction side of golf, realized I was traveling too much, that being an architect was going to be too tough. And so after a couple little bumps and bruises on what was I going to do, I ended up getting an invite out to California Golf Club by the superintendent that I knew from a previous job, and he said, "Hey, I want to teach you the ropes of greenskeeping. We're probably going to do a project here. If we do, you're going to be helping us hit a home run. If we don't, I'm going to be teaching you the ropes on greenskeeping either way." And so that's how I got my start. Like 7 or 8 years after I graduated college, had built golf courses for 5.5, and started learning the ropes from the ground up at Cal Club.
Well, if you've never been to Sedona, first of all, pause this for a second and go look up Sedona pictures because that's an absolute perfect place for inspiration for oil painting, right?
It sure is. Yeah, that's a artist community, and it's like they call it God's country. And
Yeah.
man, it was, yeah. Look up Seven Canyons too. It's dramatic scenery for a little golf course there.
Yeah. My dad and my sister live in Phoenix. So now that you've mentioned it, I'm like, I've never gone golfing in Sedona, but my brother-in-law takes an off-road trip. So maybe he can go off-road and I'll go play some golf.
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be a good option. So now you jump into the superintendent spot. So talk through like how helpful is it doing the first couple years in architecture and building golf courses? How does that help you maintain golf courses or take on new projects from that just having that experience and that exposure?
That's extremely helpful. I'm certain that's how I got a chance to work as a head superintendent, having that on my resume. I did get a 2 year turf degree from Rutgers after the fact. Cal Club helped me get that.
Oh,
That was going to need to be on the resume to get a full superintendent job. But being able to do work in house, understanding what goes into remodeling, restoring, upgrading is super valuable. And much better to have learned that in practice than in paper. So having that experience firsthand, really valuable. Can save the country clubs a lot of money if you have some of that know-how and can teach people that. And so it's been a fun. I've been here at Orinda 10 years this coming March, and
Wow.
we've been able to do a lot of cool like in-house projects and some contractor projects as well. But it's been great.
Not just push mowers and weed eaters, huh?
Not just cinch bugs and
Yeah.
push mowers and making hybrid vents, but
Yeah.
it's all those things.
So you read on your website, you kind of describe the birth or the inspiration behind Flag Bag, but it was more of a I've got all these flags, this stuff. What do I do with it, right? So talk to us about the first inspiration, how you're like, yeah, I know how to take care of a course. I know how to paint a course. Now I'm going to take these consumable things that everybody loves and turn it into something special.
Yeah, it's a wild story, 2019 somehow in there. I came up with this random idea, and I had been a big fan of Mackenzie golf bags from when I was 13 years old. I got a blemished Mackenzie for Christmas when I was 13. And got a cool photo of me with that and bright red, and then a new rain gear up in Portland. So I got the leather bag to go with the rain gear. Um, those are kind of opposing thoughts, but I met Peter Jacobson back when, saw his bag. I met another owner of Mackenzie. Then I reached out, or no, I think I was approached. You guys know what Golf Club Atlas is?
I do.
So Golf Club Atlas is a cool chat room architecture site. I was on the chat room chatting and mentioned Mackenzie golf bags, and then the new owner, not the current owner, but the owner that I knew, he reached out and said, "Hey, I saw you mention our golf bag. Love to meet you sometime." So anyway, I became fast friends with the guy that kind of brought it out of the ashes, named Todd Rohr, and he ran it for 14 years. I've always been a lay down bag guy. Even in college, I'd bring my ping bag home, drop it for the summer, have a leather bag that I laid on the ground. And so I've always been kind of a traditionalist, Sunday bag ish kind of a guy. Um, and so, yeah, I remember I worked at San Francisco Golf Club for a bit. I worked at Meadow Club for a bit. I've been to Pasatiempo's cart barn. I mean, the like maintenance shed. And I'm like, everywhere I'd go, these flags would have some bird poop on them. They'd be sun faded, but they're still cool logoed flags that would be in a box somewhere. And if you're that type of person, you'd say, chuck them. We're not going to ever use these again. Get rid of them. And I could never throw them away. I'd always just have a box of them. And that's as 7.5 years as an assistant at Cal Club and all the other places I got to work for 6 to 3 months to 8 months, I knew there was like a glut of old flags that like people were gonna throw away. And I got here, and probably 1 year into being here, I was like, okay, now it's my problem. Now I get to decide what happens with these flags. Before I was kind of taking direction from my boss on where these flags go, um, and I remember getting another 22 flags from the head pro who just ran the men's invite, and he's like, "Hey, can you do something with these flags because I can't give them away to the members. Someone's going to feel left out." And so now I've got old flags, some old Cow Club flag, like stuff from my whole resume of where I worked. I got some old flags, and now I've got 22 pretty darn new flags that aren't going to go in the trash. So I'm like, what am I going to do with these things? They're just going to amass a pile. And so I had two young daughters, probably 3 and 4 years old, or 2 and 3 years old, and I was like, well, I'm gonna learn how to sew a little quiver golf bag together out of these flags. That'll be a really cool use for these flags that are brand new. And I think I sat on that idea for 3 months or more, and I was out spraying greens, going through 1 through 18, spraying fertilizer, fungicide on greens. I remember pulling off the fourth green and had my Nokia. No, I had a smartphone at that point. I think I had a smartphone at that point. I pulled off and I texted my friend Todd, who had run Mackenzie for that 14 years, and he had since moved on to work at McDonald Leather Goods, who's starting another leather bag company in Oregon. And I said, "Hey, have you ever considered building golf bags out of flags?" And he's like, "No, I haven't, but we should try that." And so the next day I sent him like 8 flags, and then I was checking in with him. pretty routinely for the next 5, 6 months, and we didn't have anything yet. And I'm like, hey, this idea is pretty good. I want to get my kids, college tuition paid for. Let's get a little more serious about this. And I was going up to move my dad into a care home 7 months after I pitched the idea. And Todd's like, well, I said, you want to get a beer when I'm up there? He said, yeah, you're going to want to see this when you get up here. And so he showed me a little photo of the first bag. And so we met the next day and had a beer and went to the golf course, the public course I grew up playing. And I knew this was going to be a hit. Kind of the whole time after I pitched the idea, I knew this was going to be a successful idea. Um, it hasn't been crazy financially successful yet, but it's hit on some really high levels. And so that first meeting, knew it was going to be a hit. Then I came back to my house and I told my brother about it. He loves golf as much as, us three do. He had a business degree from Dartmouth, like a graduate degree. I'm like, you're going to need to help me figure this out because I'm busier than heck. Got a full-time job, got 2 young kids, but I think this idea's got some legs. So we had a meeting another day later and we started figuring out how are we going to launch this? How, what are we going to do? And our goal was to build 10 bags from superintendent connections that I had, National Golf Links, Sand Hills, some really cool places. I was texting at night like, hey, this is top secret, but this is an idea I have. What do you think? And would you send me some flags if you like this idea? And so it was about a month and a half or so. We were getting flag deliveries from San Francisco Golf Club and some of these places, and like, holy cow, this is gonna work, man. Who's not gonna want to buy this? And sure enough, I think we planned on launching April Fool's Day of right when COVID was starting. I think that was 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got delayed a week or two, but we launched it. And that first night, my brother, he's in Portland and I'm in the Bay Area. We were both up just receiving DMs all night long. Matt Janella, who played golf at St. Mary's with me for 1 year, like he had some connections. He pitched this. He showed it on Instagram or Twitter, and it helped a bunch. And so anyway, that was kind of the start of it, the idea and how it came to be.
So,
That's awesome.
what kind of flags are you using? Like, I mean, I've got flags laying around, from say the U.S. Open or maybe a golf course that we visited. Is that basically you grab those squares, send them to you all, and then you creatively figure out how to match it in a way that lets me carry my clubs?
That's right. Yeah, every bag's got a nylon liner and it's made up mostly of leather. So the structure comes from the leather,
Hmm.
and then the flags are kind of the adornment. 3 to 7 flags is kind of the number usually on the golf bag. And I design each one kind of in the evening. My sister's usually got the flags up in Portland, and then we're working together on text message, and I'm showing her where I'd like her to put the flags, which leather colors to look at. And so it's kind of, it started out as a family affair. And yeah, so then you know you probably know this, but we've launched head covers immediately, and then we've launched duffel bags and valuables pouches and stuff like that. So I've got a hand in designing all of that. I don't build any of it, although I have been doing the final steps on the valuables pouch the whole time. But I kind of found the different people that could help us put it all together. And so it's been a tag team effort. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, those valuables pad, the bag, that is fantastic. And then while you were sort of walking around ahead of time, I saw a couple of them like sitting around. Like
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, so not everyone is going to line up and want the Sunday bag, right? So like
Right.
the duffel bag has done real well. Golf bag does well. Um, and we're working on, the next version, probably of a golf bag too. That might be a little more of a year-round bag. But man, it's been cool there's not a lot of sustainable golf companies. It's been cool to you know, so like there's so many cool things about it. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but um,
You
when
can.
you go into a pro shop and you're selling a bag that has your logo 3 times instead of saying Callaway on it, I mean, why wouldn't the club want to sell something that is all them? It's kind of like
Right.
their game jersey, or like, you know, it's no longer a Titleist bag. It's a Orinda Country Club bag, and so, Bandon Dunes has one in every pro shop, and they take orders off of those. And so not only is it a cool usable piece, but it looks really cool almost as interior design, or helps to, show out the pro shop with something cool that's their logo 3 times, 5 times. So it fits real well into that environment.
Have you got Pinehurst to give you all 10 of their flags for each of the courses, and then you can sort of piece that together?
I'm working that through, but no, we've been working with John at Pinehurst number 2. So I've been getting Pinehurst number 2 flags, and working on some things with him and Tom Pashley. But we that would be a goal for 2025, is to make a one with every course and to have it in their pro shop. I've never had the good fortune to beat a Pinehurst yet, so that should be on my list for 2025 too.
Well, if you come, we'll drive up the road and meet you there. So
Heck yeah.
that'd be a lot of
That
fun.
sounds great to me.
Yeah. Well, so walk us through the process for somebody to order. So Jonathan and I have the fortune. We're going to go
Oh,
play St. Andrews here in
immediately
April. So
thought about the
walk
bag.
us through the process when we collect flags and we want to order something. Like, what do people do? You mentioned people can order stuff through their club if they have the flag bags there. But what would somebody that has flags, like Jonathan was mentioning, what would the order process be? Turnaround time? How does all that work?
Good question. So yeah, like, you know, about half our business is that green grass side, where it's like the Bandon Dunes model, or one of the private clubs is sending us old flags, and we're sending products back to their pro shop to sell to their members. Where it's a more of like a direct consumer move, like you're mentioning, that's the other half of our business. So it's usually guys that have collected flags, have access to flags, or wanted to buy flags, and they'll send us flags to start the process. It's kind of like they reach out on the internet, either through the website or through Instagram, and say, "Hey, I want to do something," and I shoot them the address. They send me the flags, and then we start designing once the flags hit the ground here, and then duffel bags turn around in around a month, a little less usually. Golf bags are usually 2 months from design approval, and accessories are around the 1 month too. So that's kind of how the process goes. We've just rebuilt our website, and we're getting a little more orchestrated and organized with actually making some sales calls and things. But that's how like the direct consumer guys like yourself would reach out to us.
As soon as I saw it, when Robbie talking about our trip, already thinking through like I need to find the perfect flag for the extra bag, the little personal
Yeah,
bag deal. Because
yeah,
and you mentioned like a golf course saying they've got Callaway. I've got I don't know 2 or 3 of those little bags because you rent clubs somewhere and you get free 6 balls and a glove, but it doesn't have any personalization on there from the course I just played. It's just a cheap Callaway bag that I can throw ball markers or tees into. And so I'm going to be looking for the perfect flag to make sure it can commemorate the trip that we go on.
yeah. And it's like, when you go on a little side trip and you've got to take all your charging cords, like I
Right.
throw all my charging accessory cords into like a small little valuables pouch of a golf flag, and it's like, it's you're traveling through the airport with a duffel bag of stuff you love. You're gonna get people asking you about it, like whether you want that attention or not. Like you're able to take something you love and make it part of your daily life a little bit more than you might have been able to with just having a flag on your wall.
Well, the nice part, like you mentioned, the golf bag, you're going to carry that around on the course. But if you are traveling on the guy's golf trip and your golf bag's checked into the hard case, underneath the plane, but you pull out all of your, like you said, your cords and everything else that you need for that kind of trip, I'm in. I can't wait.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's cool.
So, how awesome was it to turn on the opening tee shot, honorary tee shot of the Masters, and see Jack and Barbara Nicklaus carrying a flag bag?
I I had heard it was going to happen, but I almost couldn't believe it. So the story of that, Stevie Nicholas, Jack's grandson, reached out on a telephone call to us and said, "Hey, my name is Stevie Nicholas, and I want to do something for my grandpa, and it's a Florida area code." And we're like, "Huh, I wonder who this is." And
Man.
uh, and so we got him on the phone, and he's like, "Hey, I want to surprise my grandpa with a bag made of his five favorite major victories." And we're like, "Okay,
Oh,
that sounds pretty cool." And so 2 days later, he had that list. It was the Canterbury PGA on his home state in his home state. It was the Masters in '86. It was the '80 British Open, '72 Pebble Beach U.S. Open, and the '62 Oakmont U.S. Open, which is his first. I think that's five. And I'm like looking through YouTube, like, hey, what do these flags look like? Because you can buy a Masters flag, but you can't buy any of those flags. I was able to find like something old on eBay that had a Pebble Beach logo from then, a '72, and then I ended up creating flags to look like exactly what that tournament logo, which a flag had never been made for that logo, like that became something that was happening in the '80s and '90s, not in the '70s and '60s. So I made the flags and ended up having enough to do a duffel and a golf bag. So it was to be an 84th birthday gift for Jack, surprising him. He had been asked about what his favorite majors were, but he didn't know what he was getting at all. And so Stevie got this bag to him, and I remember being in a office without cell reception, and all of a sudden these Stevie Nicholas texts are coming in. I can't open the photos. I'm like, oh dude, he gave him the bag today. I gotta get out here where I have cell reception. And it's Jack in his kitchen with Barbara, and they're like holding up the bag and the both bags, and Stevie says he loves it. He's gonna either text you or call you. And I'm like, no way. And
oh,
uh and he didn't call or text, but 6 days later in the mail shows up a personal letter from Jack, and I was like, I gave my phone to my daughter. I was like, you got to record this. What? I think this is gonna be a pretty cool letter. So I opened it up, and it's a hand typed letter like you would have seen Jack or Arnold Palmer write to somebody, typed up, and then at the bottom signed, and it said, thanks so much for this thoughtful deal. This is the coolest golf bag. This is the coolest bags I've ever seen or owned. Best wishes. Thanks so much. Signed by Jack. And I was like, no way. Um, so then it was after that Stevie was like, are you guys going to be at the Masters? And I'm like, no, I've never been to the Masters. He's like, well, if you're not going to be there, it'd be cool if you were, but if you're not going to be there, you should be watching it on TV because Barbara's going to be carrying that bag. And so I'm watching the weather like a hawk, like, Will Zalatoris was going to he has our bag, and he was going to use it, and he got rained out like 2 years in a row in the par three tournament. Since then, Ben Crenshaw's used our bag twice in the nicer weather. But I was like, if it rains, this is just not going to happen. And it was a nice, beautiful day, and I had been to work that morning, got home to help my kids kind of get to school, and I turn on the golf channel, and I'm like, I'm getting text messages. I'm like, oh my God, he's got it. It's right there. And like, we didn't know if anyone would get pictures of it because there's no cameras at Augusta for the fans, but then the professional photographers were taking photos and it was showing up on some media outlets, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, we didn't have to pay for this. We got paid, and we ended up doing it for free, but like we got paid, we're gonna get paid for this, and here he is. You couldn't pay for this advertising.
man,
That's so
forget
cool.
forget your girl's college education. Like once you get a letter from Jack Nicklaus, don't you be like, I'm done. This isn't
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
get any
I mean,
better.
we pretty much peaked. That AT&T Pro-Am thing, I thought we had peaked then, and it turns out this was probably the Nicholas on the first tee is probably the peak.
It's
Um,
funny, you think about all the grandkids that Jack has, and Stevie like probably elevated himself to the top of the list with that
That's
move.
right.
I like to think so.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
whenever the Augusta National gets in touch with you and says, "Hey, we've got 6 or 7 different types of flags, right? We got our Berkman's place, we've got the flag and stripes or whatever it's called across the street now. We've got a number of things, and so whenever you get to come to the Masters, you can stay at my place. I make that offer for anybody. If you ever make it to the National, come on by. We got Jeff actually stayed with us last year,
Oh,
so
amazing.
yeah. So it,
Well, we had, within 6 months of the business starting, we got connected with the Masters, and we had an order with Berkman's Place, and it ended up being the COVID year when they had no patrons and they canceled all the merch tents.
oh
And we're
no,
like, that was a stroke of bad luck. But we did get flags from them and made them a sample, and so hopefully we'll rechalk that conversation. I hope at some point, but this couldn't have been cooler.
that is awesome.
That's really
Well,
cool.
we always ask our guests about their best golf shot, thinking that might be the highlight of the story, which again, I think we might have reached the peak with a letter from Jack Nicklaus being signed and sent to your house. So you've played a lot of golf, you've played a lot of good golf. What is your most memorable golf shot?
I got two. Probably everyone says that, right? I've got four hole in ones, and the two that are unofficial are my best golf shots ever. So my first hole in one was on that same Muni that I learned to play on. I was playing by myself, and all your viewers are going to say this doesn't count. But I had played multiple balls most of the day. I get to the eighth tee box, and this is ironic as a superintendent, but they had put the real tee box ground under repair. It was being seated, and it looked mint. I mean, it was ready, and it was under yellow rope. And I'm like looking around. I'm like, there's no one here. I'm playing the real tee. I jumped the rope, went back, played the normal yardage, 143 with a 6 iron. First ball, crowned green. I mean, the thing isn't bigger. It's twice the size of my office. It's tiny green, crowned green. It's probably 1,300 square feet. I mean, the thing is tiny. And one hop, I heard the flag get hit, jumped that yellow rope, grabbed my bag, and hustled up there. And there was like a maintenance guy or something in the distance. And I can't remember if he had seen it or heard it, but there was some interaction. And I pulled the ball out of the hole, and I was just floating for the rest of the day. And then
Right?
the next one was crazier. My last one, it's like 20 years ago now, but I had built a course in nearby, and it's called Dublin Ranch. And it was mint, it was ready to go, but it wasn't open yet. And so I had my two best buddies, golfing buddies at the time, come out, and we'd go play, and we had holes cut, but no pins. And the longest part three, 228 downhill. And one of my friends was Drew Olson, who was the quarterback at UCLA, and had a sniff he was eighth in the Heisman. He was a really good quarterback. Had a sniff in the NFL, and then his brother. And I took a 1 iron and hit it just as I wanted to. Maybe a slight fade, nice and high, downhill, 228. Get to the middle of and it's a huge green, 8,000 square foot, like the largest green, longest par three. See the ball mark in the center of the green and know the pin's back left because it'd been there for 2 weeks. We're not open yet. I know exactly where the pin is. I see the ball mark. I'm like, this didn't leave the green. Like, that's a deep ball mark. And I walk up and it's sitting in the bottom of the hole with no pin. And Drew's like, that doesn't count, man. And I'm like,
That
bull,
counts.
that counts. I know exactly where the hole is. I couldn't see it, but we haven't moved the hole in 2 weeks. I know where the hole is. And so those two that don't really count are my favorite golf shots ever.
That's
Listen,
such a good story.
if it goes in, it counts.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I
Yep.
mean I had a friend who I was pulling up for a green committee meeting last week, and he's like, "Hey, I just had a hole in one. I played 4 holes by myself, and it's like doesn't count." I'm like, "Dude, that counts."
It counts.
So yeah, those are the best ones. It's like it's weird. It's like and the other two I had were with a wedge, with a full foursome, and it was like really cool, but not as cool as those two.
Yeah. Well, all hole in ones have stories. Jonathan and I hope to have one of those stories someday.
Someday.
We're not
Someday.
there yet.
Well,
Our
I tell
stories
you,
are.
the real trick is to talk about it often. I mean, if you talk about chipping in, someone's chipping in. If you talk about a hole in one, it's going to happen the next day. Like that's when these things. It's a weird thing about golf. That's how it happens.
There you go.
We'll play it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It'll be my
tomorrow,
mantra.
Jonathan,
Let's
it's
see
going to
it.
happen.
It'll be
Let's
my
see it.
mantra the entire way. Just an hour and a half of driving, hole in one, hole in one, hole in one.
Yeah.
Yep. Before we go to our last segment called the Quick Nine, I want to ask you had a pretty cool project that you're doing with Landman Golf Club over in Nebraska, correct?
Right.
Tell us about that.
Um,
Landman's a
so
real favorite of ours, so we
Yeah.
know what's going on there.
yeah, no, I imagine. So I've not gotten to be there before, but I've seen it and seen the excitement behind it. So Landman uses windsocks for their pin flags, a small windsock as their, 1 through 18 pin flag, and they also have this massive windsock flying at the clubhouse, and it's got Landman written on it. So, you know, what we love about golf is what makes you unique, and like it's very clear that they've got a calling card that is super unique. And so Sarah, who's their merchandiser, reached out somewhere around Thanksgiving and said, I'd love to upcycle this windsock with you guys, make it into a bunch of different things: golf bags, head covers, valuables, pouches, duffels, and so I don't think I had seen I had seen the big one, but I didn't know exactly how big it was. And she's like, I'm going to box it up at the end of the season. I'm going to send it to you. And I roll that thing out in my kitchen, and I'm like, oh my God, this thing's massive.
Did it fit?
Yeah, I mean, kitchen into the family room, great room. Like
Right.
it fit there, but I think it was 30 foot or
It's
29 feet.
huge.
It's
Oh
huge.
yeah.
And so we've delivered some things to them, and we're going to deliver some more here in the season. But what a cool, we've gotten to upcycle some jerseys, a lot of golf flags. That's our first windsock. Hopefully not our last. So yeah, it's so cool. And you guys know more about the success of that place, but it sounds like they release all their tee times in the winter and they sell out for the season or something like that.
Was it 50 minutes this year?
Yeah, so December 31st, 8 a.m. Central, they open up their tee sheet for the upcoming season, so 2025. And yeah, this year, even with a little bit of glitch in the booking system, they sold out in 50 minutes.
Is there any other course in the country that's operating that way?
Not that I know of.
That's
I don't know. I
incredible.
mean, because they're considered a public course. So,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
That windsock won't make it through the first week. However
Yeah.
many pieces you were able to make out of a 30-foot windsock,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
it makes it a week, I'd be shocked.
I mean, what a crazy success story that you could sell out an entire season in the winter. Like, that is amazing.
Yeah, we talked with Jake with Notify, which is an app that courses use to, for a place like Landman, that when their tee times sell out, let's say you're going to be near Homer, Nebraska, and you said, all right, this is the week I'm going to be close. If a tee time happens to pop up because somebody cancels, you'll get notified and you can book it right away. And they said they have, 800 people waiting per day, basically,
Every day.
for somebody to drop one of those tee times. So
And have you guys gotten to play it?
we have.
We have.
Yeah.
So when we
Wow.
played it, we played it back at the end of September, early October. When we played it, that windsock that you're referencing, the 30-foot windsock, 2 of the days that we were there, it was straight out. Like the wind
Unbelievable.
was howling. It was
Yes.
blowing.
But
So
in opposite directions. The first
That's
day
true.
we came out, it's heading out on number one. Second day, it was heading in on number one, and it was not fun to hit into the wind that day.
it was a lot of
That's
fun.
that's wild. That's wild.
A lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. That's true.
Yeah, that's cool. Like Jonathan said, we've got plans to go back, but I don't think any of the
None
products
of
that
that
you're
will be
making
there.
for them will still be there by the time we
Not
get
a
there.
chance.
Uh,
How
Yep.
many pieces can you get from that 30-foot? Because it's also probably 2 feet in diameter, right? Like
oh, it's much bigger than that.
Is it really?
It's probably 4.5 or 5 in diameter. It's massively
So,
wide too.
if I do my
Both
math
sides.
right,
So I mean, we haven't totaled it up yet, but it's going to be a lot of pieces. Especially those small ones. You can make a lot out of that fabric. So
That'll be fun
every
to see.
every year at the end of the year, this will be maybe next year. I'll go ahead and bid on it. You can do a silent auction to get an actual windsock from the hole that's your favorite. So I
Right.
didn't have a reason to get one this year, but now that I know I can turn it into a bag, Man, that's tempting, Robbie.
And apparently, all you have to do is pick which par three you want to get a hole in one on and talk about it for a while.
That's exactly right.
I
Yep.
mean, that's how it happens.
That's how it
It's
happens.
it's
I
the
tried to talk it into existence this past year, but
hey,
it didn't work.
I've been watching a lot of internet, and like manifesting is a real deal. You know, you can
Yeah.
manifest that.
Oh, man.
Well, Robbie mentioned it. We like to do a thing we call a quick nine, just a little back and forth here for some easy questions. I'll start off. What is the favorite course that you've played?
So it was tied between Sand Hills and Cypress Point,
Mm,
and just not having gotten back to Sand Hills in 7 or 8 years and gotten to play Cypress a little bit more at Cypress Point. And
okay.
caveat, I've never been to Scotland or Ireland yet.
Well, you got to get there. So that leads into our next question. What course is at the top of your bucket list?
Royal County Down. I think Royal Portrush, I understand, is as good, but I think County Down is the one that I understand is the holy grail. Well,
It's like the best in the
sorry,
world, right?
where you guys are going is probably one, and that's probably two. Yeah, the old course would probably be one. I'm sorry.
That works. All right. Who you get to go to the old course with your bucket list? Who would be in your dream foursome?
Ooh. Well, it'd be my dad, my brother, and oh man, that's tough. Yeah, I mean, do most of you guys say family, or do you go with like just the people you want to be there with? Because
I
like I don't
mean,
want to upset anyone.
someone goes with.
Um,
I mean, this is theoretical at this point.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All your buddies who say those hole in ones don't count. Those guys are
They
out.
they don't get to go at all.
They're not invited. It would be, you know what? I mean, I've gotten to play with Steph Curry twice, and the dude is just the man. And so, you know, probably you guys know about the Buster Posey thing going on too, right? I shared that with you guys.
Uh-uh.
I saw that he's working with you in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't want to upset him, but he's a co-owner of Flag Bag now as of July 1st. But I would say probably, you know, gosh, dude, I
You
don't know how to answer that.
you can do five.
Yeah.
Arnold Palmer, Steph Curry,
Jack
my dad, and my
Nicklaus.
brother. Let's go with
All
that.
right. That works.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. Are you a music on the course guy? And if so, what are you listening to?
Yeah, I do love music on the course. I'm fairly traditional, but I love music on the golf course. I don't see a problem with that at all. And I've been listening to country definitely more than anything. My favorite, non-country group is certainly like Bruce Springsteen and Counting Crows, but like I'm into country for the golf. Yeah.
I like it.
Good choices. All right. Favorite snack on the golf course?
Um, I think that you guys had these like protein balls that Bandon Dunes is doing.
I've heard about them.
Yeah.
So our course here at Orinda's doing it. It's basically that, it's got some chocolate chips in there, a bunch of oatmeal and peanut butter. It's a protein ball. That's certainly my favorite. Um, Little side note, played a couple months ago and like very lackluster first 10 holes. Had protein balls at the 11th hole, which is where our turn check is, and then I birdied every even hole on the back nine, or no, every odd hole on the back nine.
Man. So talking positive and eating protein.
Apparently,
Got
Right.
I'm gonna pick up some
all
protein
all the
balls on the
secrets.
way to the grocery store tonight.
all the secrets. All right, so this one will be dangerous with what you do, but what's your favorite golf course logo? We can take out Orinda.
Oh yeah. That's a good one. Favorite golf course logo. Let's see here. It's gotta be easy. I'm probably gonna say Fisher's Island.
I like it.
It's a good
We've
one.
gotten that
Yeah.
one a few times.
All right. What logo do you want to see on a flag bag?
Good question. Well, so this is a cool sidebar as well. So Pine Valley doesn't allow you to have a flag if you're a member. Can't buy one, but if you've made a hole in one, you get your flag, right? So Golf Digest had an article with us last year, and my brother, who was my business partner at the time, he's been replaced now, mutually happy. He's on to his another career, but he mentioned in that article, hey, the same question, like, who do you want to work with that you never worked with? And he said, we'd love to make a bag for Pine Valley, but we probably think that won't ever happen because you had to have made a hole in one. So if anyone's got 3 hole in ones, we'd make that bag for free. So like 3 months later, we get a phone call or an email. Hey, did I read somewhere that I could get a free flag bag? And like, I have a friend that's a member there. I was like, do you know who this guy is? And he's like, no, I don't. And then like an hour later, he's like, nah, he checks out. He's brass at Pine Valley. And so I was like, yeah, we'll make this bag for you pretty much free. And so we got to make a Pine Valley bag from 3 hole in ones.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but no, which one that would I like to see that I haven't seen? Who haven't we seen that I would love to see? Uh, oof, gosh. Um, well, so it was funny, like Swinley Forest is like kind of in my top, 10. Like I'd love to get there someday, the heather, the trees. And I think if there was a Swinley Forest flag bag, I'd be excited. The thing about that is they fly a plain red flag. And did have somebody reach out from them early on, and I was like sharing all the information, and they're like, well, we just have a plain red flag, how will that work? I'm like, I still want to work with you guys, let's do it. So
That'd be fun. Well, you mentioned Will Zalatoris has a bag and might rock it sometime at the Masters, but if there was a PGA Tour player that would carry a flag bag every week, who would you want to see?
I'd be Will.
Yeah.
This guy's very, very likable. I got a chance to have uh, dinner with him at the AT&T a couple years ago, and he grew up at Cal Club, where I have 7.5 years of experience, and he was only till 6 years old there. And apparently the stories are like they knew he was going to be like the next Tiger or something like that. But then the family moved to Dallas. So yeah, that would be the guy for sure.
Sounds like a good choice. All right, last question. What's next for Flag Bag Golf Company?
Um, you know, this idea, like I was mentioning, has hit some really high levels, but hasn't really turned into this life transformation for my family. So this current next 2 years is about trying to ratchet it up and figure out how to make it like a brand that starts to become more well known, and we figure out some efficiencies. And uh, it's been a fun scramble for 4 years putting all this together, but I think we can get it together simpler and maybe get the word out a little bit more in the next couple of years. So
Well, we will do our part to help tell the story of
Absolutely.
flag bags. So, Josh, we appreciate it. Everybody needs to go check out flagbaggolfco.com. Support these guys. I mean, if you've got your flags that you want, figure out how to get in touch through the website, through social media with Josh, and he will make you something great. So, Josh, thanks for joining us on the Whole Story Podcast.
hey, Robbie and Jonathan, thank you so much for having me on. Love to play sometime, so let's stay in touch. I got some connections out here. Sounds like you got some out there. So
That sounds good. Well,
We'll
we
see you.
we appreciate it, man. We'll keep pushing people your way.